average age of the trail. That was an impressive reference, the river at its deepest points might be by digging a canal deeper than the bed of the river across the continental divide. They thought they could reroute all of that polluted water away from the source of our drinking water into the churning, voluminous flows of the mighty Mississippi. In January 2nd, 1900, they opened the ship and sanitary canal. From then on out, the river has done this really unusual thing. It has flowed in the backwards direction away from the land. The opposite that nature intended. It reversed the Chicago River. People stopped getting sick, but our downstream neighbors weren't very pleased with our industrial feat, our engineering marvel. We have along the Mississippi the city of St. Louis, Missouri, who sued us. This was a case that went all the way down. And in February of 1906, the Supreme Court rules in the case. They find there's no trace of Chicago contaminants in the St. Louis waterway, so the Supreme Court had no choice but to go with the case. Also, a strike against St. Louis was over nothing in the country. That ended Memphis. So the Supreme Court rules in our favor. No conviction made it. We kind of made a dangerous precedent. But St. Louis got us back here. First, a noisy ridge. A suspense. St. Louis got their revenge for Ursula River. They bottled the water, called it Budweiser, and sold it back to us. I understand any growler, but I understand that's a contractual obligation for me to make that joke. I have all contracts that don't get paid unless I make that joke. So all the other guys and all the other boats make that joke. First, the Chicago River what's next. The Great Lakes neighbor Indiana and Michigan, Wisconsin, and Ontario, they said you're going to drain the Great Lakes by reversing the river. Yeah, they had a point. In the years following the reversal of the river, the Great Lakes were starting to be unnatural. So we installed something that's going to stay in action. All this glory they have ahead. We're heading into channel of water. 600 feet long by 80 feet wide and 22 feet deep with a gate on each side. This in front of us is the Chicago Harbor. Any other boats waiting for terminal loading? We might have a private lot. Lucky us. And that river gate's going to close. Freshmen. You can wander like Fred's disgrace. You can take a look behind you and there's a taste of the great skyline view that we have from Lake Michigan. Undergoing the lockage, you will witness the majesty and the glory that is the Chicago Harbor Lock. We'll be back in a moment. Reach Lake Michigan. We'll be back after these messages. occasionally step into a platform that'll flip you about 35 degrees over the street below. I'll level with you. I have a terrible clear height like any big kid. The observation deck is a magnificent piece. It used to be hard in the 90s to control the signature. Back when I was at Jordan or Chicago, probably in Hell Center, hotel agents go for 360. Just go to the signature room. You don't need to pay those observation deck rates. You just have a drink up there. They must be perfect because it closed down a couple of years ago. They got absorbed into 360, so you can still go up there and have a cocktail and go to 360 Chicago. Well, another good point about you can see how large it is. Ahead of us, our coastline, not the Pacific coast, not the Atlantic coast. We do have it. You can see a jet of water sitting up in the air. Buckingham Fountain. The fountain from 1929, based off of one of the Garde Versailles. It does that at the top of each hour. I would say it's about 150 feet in the air, about 50 meters, but it's kind of windy, so it might be pushed a little bit. Well, you can see kind of a multi-shaded blue and steel building on top of an old neoclassical temple. That's Soldier Field, home of your Chicago Bears. Soldier Field was built 1924 as Grant Park Municipal Stadium, renamed Soldier Field in honor of the Army servicemen during World War I. The Bears didn't move into Soldier Field until 1971 when the NFL and the AFL merged. And they added that big UFO on the top in 2003, which caused them to lose their landmark status. They got the National Registry of Historic Places. They have clashed with the style of the original structure too severely, but Bears fans can probably make the argument. within the last year. They've since broke ground in 400 Lakeshore Drive, set to be completed in a few years, designed by Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, those guys again. Going under the Jean-Baptiste Pont du Sable, Lakeshore Drive, Franklin Delano Roosevelt Bridge. We just shortened the Lakeshore Drive Bridge. But FDR did give the famous quarantine speech on the eve of World War II on that very bridge. Off the right, these green pyramid roofs, that building over there, that's the Ogden Slip named for William Butler Ogden. It used to be a warehouse where the boat could sail right up and unload. They repurposed the warehouses and the residences. They kept the boat slip for sorts of small vessels. Moving over to the left-hand side, there's a building curved and wavy with blue-green glass, 3 parts like big stepping stairs. This is the 3rd tallest building in Chicago, the St. Regis. It is named for the hotel at its base. Look at this protruding plaque and those trapezoid shapes. Those are called frustum. It's like a pyramid with the top cut off and a 3D plane. We're incorporating all that the building's plan, which is whatever the state gives or electricity. Building has another interesting feature. Look toward the top of the tallest tower and you see a spot out like glass. Those are called blow-through floors. When they did the wind tunnel test, it was deep. The building would sway too much. They had to add those so the building was more stable. If you live at the top of this building, you're living in the highest residences in Chicago. You don't want to pay millions of dollars only to get motion sickness on a regular basis. I'm told the condo recently did sell to the tune of $22 million US. That is the 3rd tallest building. 2020, it was built by Studio Gang Architects, Genie Gang. It's from Rockford, Illinois, so not far from Chicago. She's the head of Studio Gang, but a real team player, so she likes to get her studio, the Duke credit. A couple buildings down, one on a 45-3-acre balcony, the mirrored glass, green glass, is the Swiss Hotel, 1989. The Heracles was a sailor. He had a fondness for triangles, like he would sail on a sailboat. Genius. Double the waterfront views. Above and beyond that, there's a taller building looming behind it with white undulating balconies. That is the Aqua Building, also by Studio Gang. Also inspired by nature, as those balconies are said to be evocative of the limestone rock around the Great Lakes that the Niagara District. St. Regis and Aqua, the 2 Studio Gang buildings, are permitted by Kia. The glass is treated to work safely that makes it against the wind of boats. Going under the youngest bridge along the Chicago River, the bridge above us, 1982. We'll see the oldest bridge in a little bit. You can see ahead on the left, beautiful sister ships of our fleet. But this roadway, it's a multi-layered roadway. This is Wacker Drive, named for Charles Wacker, who was head of the Chicago Plan Commission. The Chicago Plan in 1909, published by Daniel Burnham, was instrumental in how we would lay out our city and how gateway to developing the area to what it would become shortly thereafter. Like this building on the left after the bridge, made of stone. There's a griffin carved on either side, called the base, called the top, London Garrett Max. Originally was owned by the company that insured boats, like the one we're on. Now it's home to the London House Hotel. Between the 50s and the 70s, it was home to a jazz club, also called the London House. A reminder, Chicago's a very musical city. The Great Migration of the 20th century saw the introduction of Southern black culture to cities in the north. Cities like Detroit and Chicago. Culture like jazz from New Orleans and blues from the Mississippi Delta. We took a special liking to blues here in Chicago. We plugged it in, we amplified it, called it the electric blues, and kind of took root here in sweet home Chicago. If you want to catch great live music, it's not very difficult. There's places around town, House Blues, Virginia Showcase. The World Music Festival we saw them setting up for in Navy Pier. Maybe you're feeling adventurous. You can try your hand at Kingston Mines or the Green Mill on the north side as well. This feature along the river, you can see a lot of people enjoying recreation. For doing so on the Chicago Riverwalk, maybe you've also taken a stroll on the Chicago Riverwalk. It was part of that 1909 Burnham Plan of Chicago, but it took over 100 years to recognize the Riverwalk potential because it turns out the river wasn't always such an asset to our city. It used to be kind of a blight. But nowadays the Riverwalk in 2024 is a great place to enjoy food or beverage options, take a walk your dog, go fishing in some spots, or just people watching. You can also take a boat ride, but why bother? We're in the nicest boat on the river. Staying on the left, a dark stone-clad building with 2 flagless poles at its base. This is 35 West Wacker, the Leo Burnett building. Leo Burnett's an advertising giant. They've given the world critters like Tony the Tiger, the Jolly Green Giant, the Pillsbury Doughboy. If you've ever seen a show called Mad Men, Don Draper was based off a man named Draper Daniels. who was a creative director for LeoPardet. A little bit before this building's time, that building went up in 1989. The architect's name was Roche Dinkeloo, which is just kind of fun to say. I guess I still am a child at heart, right? I think the right side of the boat ceiling a little bit left out, so we'll go over there. Up ahead, there's a sign that says RPM Seafood above that green glass skyscraper. That's 321 North Clark Street, 1987. By Skidmore going to Merrill. Yes, they show up again. This building's anchor tenant used to be Quaker Oats. Now it's home to the American Bar Association. Not quite the same kind of bar. That monstrous has been handing downstairs. The Bar Association, like lawyers, these kind of things. 321 North Clark Street, 1987. Skidmore going to Merrill. I know I'm throwing a lot of names and numbers at you, but you don't need to commit them to memory. There will be no tour after the test. I mean, test after the tour. I remember these things, so you don't have to. Each part of the river walk from bridge to bridge is known as a road. They kind of have a different vibe. The one that we're passing into on the left is called the River Theater. Us and the other boats with some brave kayakers are the theater. There's your audience on the left, sparse as they may be. They may fill in over the course of the day. Above that, another stone building with an American flag toward its base is the LaSalle Wacker building from 1930 by Halliburton Group. See how it's kind of pushed inward? That was in response to a 1923 city ordinance that mandated that setback feature for fear that we would condemn the streets below to being dark, airless canyons. You'll see buildings of that era, the Art Deco era, shaped like big armchairs. Going under a lot of these bridges today. You'll notice trunnion vestibule, from the French word for seesaw. We have 37 trunnion vestibule bridges, which is more than any other city. There was a variety of bridges at one point in time. But it turns out this is the most efficient way of doing it. It doesn't take much power to open them. They can open when you need a sailboat to get through, which will become more common on designated lift days as the season draws to a close. You can see the one in front of us. The train just went by. That is the famous Chicago Elm on the upper level of that double-decker trunnion vestibule bridge. It's sort of an elevated train back and elevated above the river. It was cheaper to do that way back in 1892 when it first went to service instead of digging a bunch of subway tunnels. The theme of the building on the right, this is the Mart, the Merchandise Mart from 1930, Grand Annual Open One. Heads out front. The merchandise is alluding to the building's history as a wholesale merchandise showroom. So those are the likes of Darren Montgomery Ward and Marshall Field, names that carry real weight throughout those regional districts. David Lebanon referred to those as the The building when it opened had its own postal code. It's got about 11 miles of home. The largest square footage in the world. It's green like the river, ripples like the river, curves like the river. The river's natural green is due to a nice, healthy population of algae. These buildings went up. The United States was kind of encapsulated by ancient Egypt following the excavation of King Tut's tomb by Howard Carter in the 20s. This building was the old home of Chicago Daily News. And it was ahead of its time. It included that riverfront plaza back when the river wasn't always such a big as it is today in 2024. On the left, the Boeing building. Look out in front, you see these four flags. The first one, the American flag. Next one in is the Illinois state flag with the state seal, that white flag. The fourth flag that flew on is the Boeing flag. But let's talk about the third one. That's the Chicago City flag. It's got two blue stripes, the river, the lake. Three white stripes, the north side, the west side, and the south side. The east side is the lake. Four six-pointed red stars for historical events. You get our two World's Fairs, 1893, 1933, the Great Chicago Fire, 1871, and Fort Dearborn, which was a fort during the War of 1812 to kind of seize control of the fur trading commodity at the time. Another chance for you both selfie on the left about 150 north Riverside. See if you can find yourself in the reflection. On the right here, this is a brick building with the rough site of the wigwam, which is where Abraham Lincoln received the 1860 Republican national nomination to go up against Stephen A. Douglas, who was also from Illinois. The wigwam no longer stands. It was a wooden balloon frame building, which was a big no-no after the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Built of wood. You can see up the North Bridge, a bridge permanently suspended in the air. They lower it once a year so the railroad can maintain that, but it's a bridge to nowhere. Doesn't lead anywhere. This peninsula here at the confluence is known as Wolf Point. There's theories as to why it's called Wolf Point. Either that was the name of the tavern, that was the Native American name, or the occupants. My favorite theory is that's where the wolves used to come drink from the river. Look at that fence on the left. You can see embedded in there, there's a symbol, a capital letter Y with a circle around it. It's called the peninsula.
Bueno, llegamos al final del viaje, de la excursión por el río de Chicago.